What screams? Pretending to be upper class? Rich people on Instagram are probably mostly fake rich. Buying followers. If I were a billionaire, I would not want to be tagged partying on a yacht, especially not in 2020. I work at an exotic car rental branch. I have plenty of customers that rent our cars and ask us to take the ID tags off the key ring. Understandable. Then I have some that insist they get the same license plate each time and will flip out if I give them the same model as usual but with the plate one digit off. They're trying to make the appearance to whoever that they own the car and get themselves in a trap where they have to keep renting to keep up the illusion. That charade never lasts long. Struggling to scrape together the minimum payments on a luxury car. Wearing brand clothes that have the huge name of the brand on them. I used to work in one of the brand stores and these were literally made for the lower class that wants to show off. More expensive and higher quality items never had this flexing on them. $5,000 purse with no money in it. Talking about possessions. Slipping dollar amounts into conversations. Act like you've been there before. Talking down to working class people. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely snooty arsehole upper class people, however in my interactions with them as a working class person in services they've always been extremely nice. My guess is because we both know who we are in society. So there are no pretensions. Fake upper class people have to completely reinforce the class divide. It had to be absolutely clear that they are and always have been above you. Part of me thinks it's resentment at what they might have used to have been and the other part thinks it's how they think other upper class people behave. Saw some guys at a stoplight in a convertible 6 Series BMW with the top down blasting music and wearing expensive clothes. I can see his dashboard. Every possible warning light was on. 20 dudes who pooled their money to pay for one bottle service table at a Vegas club. Source. Was one of those dudes. Pudding. Entrepreneur. On any social media platform bio. McMansions without curtains or furniture in the upstairs. We don't get anything that scream. Pretending to be upper class. In Australia at the moment. Thanks to our mining sector, at the height of the boom, someone could leave high school, get some tickets, and pretty much walk into a 6-figure job on the mines. So the young man driving around in an expensive muscle car while covered in tattoos. Slabs of beer in the back. May not be pretending, but could be a cub, cashed up bogan. Shopping in the curtains aisle of Walmart and openly declaring to me, an employee trying to zone, that we have no taste. I used to be concerned about how I looked dressed when going to a high-end retailer. Now I simply don't care. If they won't serve me when wearing jeans, then I'll just go somewhere else. We took the wheels off our double wide and bought plastic paneling that looks like bricks. Talking about how expensive everything you have is and how much money you have. I've found that truly wealthy people don't feel compelled to talk about it constantly. Throwing parties every week, and calling everyone old sport. When people act all rich but they've never even staged a South American coup for better tax rates on their fruit plantations. Getting married in a big fat wedding by taking out loans. Borrowing from friends. Plus, getting super expensive rings when you can't afford 1/10 of it. Taking out loans to get your family on a little vacation. My friend is doing this. I told him to save up for a trip like that. Apparently stuff around the house is stressing both him and his so badly with their kids that they are fighting over taking out $20,000 or $30,000 to go on a vacation. One vacation. Then it's back to fighting and whatnot. Absurd. Imagine knowingly going into debt to go on one vacation. They both work too, which is even more baffling. Pronouncing your name. Bouquet. Obligatory edit. Thank you, mysterious benefactors. Constantly altering your pink Chanel suit to fit in at a country club. One of my husband's best friends comes from a filthy rich family. Think billions. We went to his wedding a few years ago and the social experiment that ensued was beyond fascinating. The guests themselves were a mix of anyone from broke college kids, us, to doctors, to millionaires and billionaires. Some trends definitely emerged amongst the people who were obviously self-conscious about their wealth, though. They were frequently dismissive, and sometimes downright rude. To the serving staff, they made sure logos of their belongings were plainly in sight. Your hotel room is literally connected to the reception venue. So I know you didn't need to bring your $1,200 Canada Goose parka to dinner. They also made sure to talk loudly about their expensive plans for the future and highlighting any wealth-related attributes in the process. Oh well. My girlfriend is graduating medical school next year. So we're starting to look at houses, mostly in the 800K-1 mil range. It was a stark contrast against the people who were comfortable with their social status, wealthy or otherwise, who were all just happy to be there, having fun, drinking alcohol and wholly unworried about which stranger they'll never meet again knows how much money they wish they had. Edit. Is complaining about how expensive homes are in big cities in Australia a thing? Like, we all know decent housing is expensive in big cities across the globe. Right? We also all know that the vast majority of new college grads cannot afford $1 million home right off the bat. Right? Jeff Lowe. My uncle and his wife are perfect examples. They bought a brand new Mercedes that they can't afford. Live in a house that's too big for them. Bought a caravan in a park where the ground rental is nearly $50K a year. They bought their kids expensive ass bikes that were never used, and what did they use to pay for all this? If you guessed credit cards, then you are correct. Credit cards and loans from my grandmother which they will never pay back. Then they make fun of my mother and I for being working class. Might as well spit on my grandfather's grave since he was working class through and through. Edit. I got the cost of the caravan rental wrong by 10K. It's 5K for the ground rental and they rent the caravan from the site for 35K. So the total is 40K. This was my bad. And my grandmother actually cleared this up for me. Edit 2. As someone pointed out, this number is apparently Seuss. I'm just going off what I was told. Buying expensive clothes. Or fake ones. And owning a high-end phone. But you stretch your budget to do this in order to make it seem like you can afford excess when you really can't. When every item of clothing you're wearing has a designer logo on it. Real rich people don't walk around looking like billboards. Definitely buying cars you can't afford. I'm solidly middle class and drive a Ford Focus. Don't buy one. They're shit. And a lot of people I work with that make less than I do. Roll in driving big expensive trucks or Mercedes cars. If I can't afford that, I know they can't. Moving to LA despite not being able to afford living there. Posting pictures of your fancy cars and house renovations, shoes, etc. on social media. Real rich people don't actually have to scream I'm rich to be rich. When you get invited for supper and bring a bottle of wine, but feel obligated to mention it cost $35. I heard salespeople at high-end shops can tell immediately if someone was actually wealthy in places like Rodeo Drive. Even if you dress up nicely and walk into a high-end store, they could pick you off as a normie. Simply talking about money and how much things cost is way to brag and show others your wealth. I grew up fairly close to my cousin. He's 6 months older than me, and his family. And they are what I consider to be truly wealthy. My uncle was a very well-respected dentist who built his practice up from nothing over a 30-year period. He retired in the last 5 years. My uncle grew up in a dirt-poor farming family and never flaunted his wealth when he became wealthy. He didn't buy a new sports car every year. He still drives the same sports car he bought 15 years ago. He didn't wear flashy designer clothes. He still wears expensive clothes though. And you'd never know he was a millionaire if you passed him in the street. He owns properties all over the province, for hunting and net worth reasons. Owns a mansion in the Bahamas on the beach. And takes trips to Europe yearly. You wouldn't know any of those things unless you knew him on a personal level. On the other side of my family I have an uncle that would be considered upper middle class. He always had to have the fanciest toys. The newest models. Etc. and everything is a competition to him. My parents bought a new Cadillac before they retire and of course he had to purchase one as well. Except it had to be better. So he bought a CTSV within a month of my parents so he could be better than my parents. He also has to brag about his traveling. Telling us of the fun he had in Vegas last week. The exciting trip to Mexico he's taking next and so on. In my experience there's two types of wealthy. There is the truly wealthy class who are humble people that make smart decisions with their money and don't treat it like a competition, and there is the faux wealthy class who have to try and flaunt their wealth in the face others as a way of keeping score and ensuring that they are perceived as winning. Buying a high-end truck with a 7+ year loan. They sell accessories that you can clip to cheaper iPhones to make it look like you have the 3 cameras. A pack of Charmin Mega Rolls in each bathroom. Putting other people down for having less expensive things than they do. Like just because it's not expensive means that it is worthless. Those people need to shut up. Knockoff luxury brand anything. Usually watches, bags, wallets, clothes. There are plenty of respectable Elegant things that look and work just as well. You're not tricking us. And you're not tricking them people who swim in those lanes all the time. Oh. Actual upper class story. Have a wine snob friend coming over for a party. So I bought a cheap obscure wine. Like $10 bottle. And when I cashed out I asked them to take the sticker gun and put $80 on it. My friend thought it was an amazing bottle of wine. My boyfriend tried to convince me that if I bought a KitchenAid that we'd need to leave it on the counter so people would notice that we could afford to spend $250 on a kitchen appliance. I would love to have one. But I don't bake enough to justify it, and if I ever get one it's going to be stored when I'm not using it because I hate clutter on my counters. Edit. There seem to be a lot of comments disagreeing that $250 appliances aren't upper class. I think this is a matter of perspective. I grew up super poor. If I walked into someone's house and saw a $250 mixer that absolutely is not a basic necessity, I would assume that their family had considerably more money than mine did. Nothing wrong with it. But it's just my observation and opinion. I think it's interesting that people seem to be scoffing at the idea that this appliance isn't even that expensive, that big of a deal. How could it be a status symbol? Having that much extra money in America is a big deal for a lot of families. Edit 2. The boyfriend isn't as materialistic as this post makes him sound, I promise. He grew up poor too. And he thinks it's an art piece that should be displayed. But he also wouldn't buy one just for having it. He'd only buy it if he expected it to be used. Edit 3. Some really nice person who shall remain anonymous unless they decide otherwise has given me an inside pass to Whirlpool, owner of KitchenAid. I'm now taking recommendations on which model to get. And which attachments. I cook a ton and I love learning new recipes. Designer face masks.